At Shakti, we work on policy advocacy around clean energy and clean transportation with the view of mitigating climate change through emissions. And working with the private sector is certainly an important part of what we do, recognizing that almost 3/4 of the GDP in the country is from the industrial sector, and an equivalent amount of power consumption, use of transportation, etc., is from this sector. That it is indeed the industry that can actually make lasting change. Policy can do so much. Policy can provide the basic framework, but it is our belief that it is the private sector and industry that has to then take the lead and make this change self-sustaining. There are many reasons for companies in industry to look at greenhouse gas emissions, starting with just the business case. Controlling energy consumption, increasing energy efficiency translates an immediate benefit to the bottom line with greater margins, thereby increasing your effective competitiveness and your ability to access markets and to deal with other players in the industry. So that is clearly the number one and the most obvious reason for doing so. But the argument we're seeking to make is that industry should take a leadership role. They shouldn't wait for change to be thrust on them or imposed on them. And it is a smart thing to do, even from a business point of view, to be ahead of the change rather than to react to the change. I think smart companies already we can see that, are already doing so. They're adopting policies and technologies that are making them leaders, giving them an edge over their competition, and actually setting the standards for even policymakers. But either you'll be a leader or you'll be forced to the table, and it'll be much more expensive to join the sort of conversation later, and you may find that you're a laggard and other companies have gone ahead. So I think the smart companies are those that see this as an opportunity to invest in new technology, and this investment will not only lead to better existing products, but would actually even lead to opportunities for new products, new markets, new consumers, etc. The world around us is one global marketplace. Domestic markets are important, but increasingly for major Indian companies, exports are as important. And in many segments, India is a key player in the export markets. So we need to not only look at what's happening in India, but we need to look at what's happening in other markets, and especially the developed country markets where we export a lot of our engineering goods and our automobiles. We're seeing that standards are being put into place in these countries that often run ahead of what's happening in India, say on fuel efficiency or fuel quality, or in the use of refrigerant gases. And Indian manufacturers will find that they're unable to export to these markets if they don't comply with those requirements in those markets. So there again is an opportunity to take the lead from the most demanding of markets, and then to leverage the investment one makes in the manufacturing capabilities to take a leadership position in other markets like India or the lesser developed countries, which may not have those standards. So for all these various good and strong reasons, I believe that smart companies will recognize and measure what they're doing in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and will take a leadership role. Another example where Shakti has been actually working with WRI in working with what I call industry leaders is on creating demand for clean energy. So we have worked together to form a green power buyers group, which has been successfully launched in Karnataka, and now we're seeking to expand this to other centers. And there again, I think smart business companies will set the trend and create the demand for the sort of clean power and clean energy that one needs to meet at least India's growing needs, which very clearly cannot be met through conventional sources at this point in time. I think Indian industry's response to climate change has been in pockets. I think many companies have started by focusing on and doing a good job on what goes on within their own factory premises, buildings, etc. And I think that's a very useful way to start and the appropriate place to start. But I think it's time they broaden their ambitions and extend this focus well beyond their own four walls. An obvious first place to start is with up your own supply chain. I believe global companies, multinationals are beginning to do so, and there's no reason why large Indian companies cannot also do so, is to create awareness and actually create capacity, exchange best practices, and work with their ancillaries to benefit from the learnings that companies have derived themselves on more efficient production processes, on increasing reliance on wind and solar energy, reduce reliance on diesel generating sets and grid power, more efficient building design, and in the case of automobiles, more efficient engine design. To the point about the risks associated with not doing so, increasingly we see in more developed markets that the investment community is also presenting a source of, if you want, pressure on companies in which they invest. Many investor groups now, when they review where the money is invested, aren't just looking at the rate of return on capital, but they're also looking at sustainable and green practices, and are actually instructing the fund managers to pull money out of companies that do not comply. We know of initiatives in stock exchanges where the stock markets are now creating indices covering or tracking companies that are leaders in emission control. And the next step, I believe, will be consumers, where consumers will only buy products from companies where they believe they're doing the right things. So there's a real risk to companies in terms of their own viability, their own access to funding, their own access to customers. And of course, there's a larger systemic risk to the country and to the world at large that is impacted by climate change, which we can see every day through severe weather events and through a gradual warming of the system, a melting of the glaciers, frequent and more frequent rain bursts and droughts, etc. So I think the corporate sector certainly has the resources and the ability to make positive change. Well, clearly, more than what one company can achieve alone, a group of companies can achieve much more. And this can be companies in the same industry, in the same geographic area, and actually, indeed, across all these sort of classifications of industry and area. And the greater the cooperation, the greater the impact, and the greater the cross learnings. The Green Power Buyers Group is a small example of what can be achieved, but there is indeed much more. The government already has several energy efficiency schemes in place that directly impact industry, primarily what is known as Perform Achieve Trade, which is just being rolled out, and there are standards and labeling requirements on a certain number of appliances, which needs to be extended. There are now very recently fuel efficiency standards on cars, which will soon be extended to trucks and buses. There are standards on building design, both commercial, currently only commercial, but now guidelines have been issued on residentials. So I think the government is putting in place a useful framework, but it's really up to industry to not only cooperate and comply with the guidelines that are present, but indeed go well beyond them. Government policies typically indicate minimum standards, the minimum type of building, or the minimum number of appliances, or the minimum efficiency requirements. But companies that seek to be competitive and seek to be leaders in this space need to go well beyond. And for large-scale impact, I think groupings of industries through associations, through initiatives, will certainly make a far larger impact than companies acting on their own. So I think it's very creditable for the 28 companies who have actually voluntarily joined in this program. I think the 28 companies probably have learned from their experiences, have positive experiences. So there's a lot they can do to collectively share best practices, share measurement techniques, share management processes, and to also share capacity building processes that they've used, and to use their collective will and the collective ability to create a momentum that will help other companies that are thinking about doing this, to benefit from and leverage the success that's already been achieved by this very small number of 28. Well, my final words would be, get on the bus or you'll be run over. I mean, very bluntly, I think it's the market will not tolerate laggards, and those who will succeed or survive are those who are getting, joining the momentum or contributing to the momentum rather than sort of standing in the way, because there's just so many compulsions on doing the right thing in this case, from just the sheer lack of power availability in our country to the extreme vulnerability our country demonstrates to climate change, and a whole range of reasons between. So my earnest wish is that more and more companies are aware of the need and the opportunity of participating.